For years, Nina's mother-in-law talked badly about her, turning her son against his own wife. In the end, she got what she wanted. He kicked Nina out of the house, full of shame. But a few years later, the ex-husband and wife ran into each other by accident, and neither of them could say a word. Hello, dear listeners. Tell us in the comments, which city are you watching from? While you do that, I'll start a new story. Nina stopped in front of a door she knew well and took a deep breath. She was holding a heavy bag full of gifts for her new family. Her heart was beating fast, full of excitement and nervousness. Just 1 week after her honeymoon, Nina was back at work. And today, she was finally going to step into the house that would now be her home. Her new husband had come home from work early, so he was probably already there. And this time, she wasn't just visiting. She was moving in for real. She remembered how much time she spent picking out the gifts. She stood in the flower shop for half an hour, trying to find the perfect bouquet. She really wanted to make a good impression and make her new family happy. Her mom always said, "The first meeting is the most important." Nina also chose the chocolates carefully. They were fancy and came in a pretty box. The door opened. Elena Ivanovna, a woman about 60 with gray hair pulled back in a tight bun, stood there. She had a polite but cold smile on her face. Nina's eyes quickly glanced at her clothes and then stopped at her brand-new boots. "Come in, Nina," the mother-in-law said as she stepped to the side. "Andre is in the shower. He'll be out soon." The apartment smelled like borscht and just a hint of mothballs. It didn't feel anything like her parents' home, where you could always smell her mom's pies or fresh-cut grass from their little country house. Here, everything felt a little stiff, like a museum. The two-room apartment, built during Soviet times, was filled with furniture from the 1980s. A big, heavy dark cabinet took up most of the living room. There were family photos in wooden frames on the walls, and everything was perfectly clean and in order. Nina noticed that in all the pictures, Andre looked very young, and only his mother was in them. There wasn't a single photo of his father. In the older photos, Elena Ivanovna actually looked different, softer, more open. Nina looked around and said honestly, "It's beautiful here." "Thank you, dear," Elena Ivanovna replied. "We have our own way of doing things here. Andryusha is used to a certain lifestyle." There was something in her voice, a quiet warning. Nina felt a small bit of tension, but she ignored it. Maybe Elena just needed time to adjust too. From the bathroom, they heard the sound of running water. A minute later, Andre came out wearing house slippers and an old t-shirt. His face lit up when he saw Nina. She noticed how he looked at his mom, like a little boy, as if asking for permission to hug his wife. "You're finally home," he said as he hugged her. "How's school? Are the kids being trouble?" "Everything's okay," Nina smiled. "The first week after break is always tough, but the kids are great." Elena Ivanovna watched the two of them with a strange look, like she was observing something very carefully. Nina's mother-in-law kept glancing at her hands, counting her rings and judging her manicure. "Mom, what's for dinner?" Andre asked, still holding Nina close. "Your favorite, cutlets with mashed potatoes and Olivier salad," his mother replied. "I remember what you like." Nina smiled and reached into her bag, pulling out a box of chocolates and a bouquet of yellow chrysanthemums. "Elena Ivanovna, these are for you. I hope you like yellow flowers." Her mother-in-law took the gifts with a stiff smile. She didn't even smell the flowers like most women do. "Thanks, of course, though I prefer roses. But these are okay too." There was an awkward silence. Andre quickly stepped in. "Mom, can you show Nina where she'll keep her things? I'll go set the table." Elena Ivanovna led Nina to the bedroom. It was a small room, but felt cozy. A big bed took up most of the space, and an old wardrobe with mirrored doors stood by the window. Both women were reflected in the mirror, and Nina couldn't help but compare them. She looked young and full of life next to her gray, serious-looking mother-in-law. "Andre cleared half the wardrobe for you," Elena Ivanovna said as she opened the doors. "There's not much space, but well, the apartment isn't very big." Nina started hanging up her dresses carefully. Elena Ivanovna stood nearby, watching closely. It felt like she was silently judging every piece of clothing. You have beautiful things, she finally said, touching the sleeve of Nina's new coat. Must have been expensive, not good. I got it on sale, Nina said quietly, feeling a little uncomfortable. I see, her mother-in-law replied slowly. And what's this cream? She picked up a jar of expensive moisturizer from Nina's cosmetics bag. She turned it over, read the ingredients, and checked the price. It was a birthday present for my mom, Nina explained. She saved up for it. She really wanted to surprise me. Elena Ivanovna put the jar back, but her face showed. She was thinking something. Nina could feel it. Every single thing she owned was being judged. As if her mother-in-law was making a mental list, quietly drawing her own conclusions. The next morning, their first real conflict happened. Nina woke up at 6 a.m., just out of habit. She wanted to cook breakfast for everyone. It's what she always did back at home. Helping her mom in the kitchen was normal. Get up early, set the table. Make something nice for your family. But suddenly, her mother-in-law appeared in the doorway, wearing a faded old robe. What are you doing? She asked sharply. I'm making breakfast, Nina said. I wanted to do something nice for you. Andre doesn't eat eggs in the morning, her mother-in-law said coldly. They give him a stomachache. Nina froze. She didn't know that. When they used to meet, Andre always ate omelets in cafes with her. I'm sorry, I didn't know, she said. Maybe I can make pancakes instead? No need, Elena Ivanovna replied sharply. I know what works for him. She took the frying pan and started cooking semolina porridge without another word. Nina just stood there, not knowing what to do. She felt like a guest in her own kitchen, or rather, not her own at all. Everything in this kitchen belonged to her mother-in-law. Every routine, every item, was under her control. Can I at least wash the dishes? Nina asked. You better go get ready for work, Elena said firmly. You don't want to be late for the kids. It didn't sound like advice. It sounded like an order. Nina left the kitchen in silence, her fists clenched. In the bathroom, she looked at herself in the mirror. Her face was red with frustration and humiliation. Is this how it's always going to be? She wondered. Dinner that night felt just as tense. Elena Ivanovna talked about her job at the kindergarten, where she had been the head for 20 years. It was clear she liked being in control. She spoke about the teachers like they were under her command, and the children like they were projects to manage. Do you know how to cook? She suddenly asked Nina. Of course, Nina replied. My mom taught me all the basics. The basics, her mother-in-law repeated with a little smirk. Well, Andryusha is used to a very special kind of cooking. I've made his meals since he was a child. I know all his tastes. Andre didn't seem to notice the tension. He was in a hurry to get to work. He kissed Nina goodbye and promised they'd go for a walk that evening. But Nina noticed how he nodded along to everything his mother said, as if he agreed without even thinking. At school, Nina tried to stay focused on teaching, but her mind kept going back to what happened that morning. During recess, Tamara Petrovna, a more experienced teacher from the class next door, noticed something was wrong. You look upset today, she said gently. It's nothing, Nina replied. Just getting used to living with my mother-in-law. Tamara nodded knowingly. That's no small thing. I was lucky. My mother-in-law was an angel. But my friend wasn't so lucky. Her mother-in-law made her life so miserable, she had to move out. Those words stuck in Nina's mind. Will that happen to me too? That evening, Nina decided to make peace. She bought groceries and made Andre's favorite salad. When she came home, Elena Ivanovna greeted her coldly. I was just about to go shopping. Could have told me what I needed, she said, almost like blaming Nina for not asking. I just wanted to help out, to be part of the family, Nina said softly. Help, her mother-in-law repeated. I understand. But during dinner, it turned out that Elena Ivanovna had already made the exact same salad. Now there were 2 identical dishes on the table, and the mood got even more awkward. It's okay, Nina said with an uneasy smile. We can finish it tomorrow. It won't be fresh tomorrow, her mother-in-law replied. Such a waste of food. Andre tried to lighten the mood with a joke, but it didn't really help. The tension in the room stayed. After dinner, Elena Ivanovna asked Nina to have a private talk. They sat in the living room, facing each other. Elena sat in her favorite armchair, while Nina sat on the sofa. "Nina," she began, "I want you to understand something. Andre means everything to me. I raised him alone after the divorce. His father left us when Andre was just 8. Her voice shook a little. Nina felt sympathy. She had seen the old family photos in the album. At first there were 3 of them, then just a mother and her son. "I understand. That must have been really hard," Nina said. "No, you don't understand," Elena said sharply. "You don't know what it's like to give up your whole life for a child. I never remarried. I gave everything to my son." "You're an amazing mother," Nina said honestly. "Yes, I am," Elena replied. "And I won't let anyone hurt my son." There was something in her voice, not just love, but a warning. Nina suddenly felt uneasy. "I love Andre, and I would never hurt him," she said quietly. "We'll see," the mother-in-law replied coldly. "Time will tell." A week passed. Nina tried her best to get along with Elena Ivanovna, but every effort she made was met with coldness. Her mother-in-law criticized how she washed dishes, where she left her shoes, even how she folded a towel. Every morning started with little complaints. Every night ended in heavy silence. One evening, Nina overheard Elena on the phone with a friend. She was in the kitchen, not realizing Nina could hear her from the hallway. "Yes, Valia. We have a daughter-in-law now," Elena said. "She's a primary school teacher. Looks modest, but has expensive things. Where does a simple teacher get that kind of money?" "That's what I'm wondering." Nina froze behind the door. What money? She thought. She had a very basic wardrobe, just a few nice things from sales or gifts from her mom. Maybe her parents are rich? Valia asked. No, they're ordinary people. Her dad works in a factory. Her mom's a nurse at the hospital. So where did she get that kind of money? Elena said with suspicion in her voice. Nina realized her mother-in-law was starting to imagine things, creating stories in her head about Nina's past. What was she thinking? That night, Nina tried to talk to Andre. Your mom's been asking strange questions about me, about my clothes and things, like, she doesn't trust me. Don't overthink it, Andre said, brushing it off. She's just cautious. After the divorce, she stopped trusting people. But I'm your wife, Nina said. Can't she just accept me? Andre hugged her and kissed the top of her head gently. But even in that moment, something felt off. His hug felt automatic, like he was just doing what he thought he should do. Give her time, he said. She'll come around. My mom just wants to protect me. It's a habit, Andre once told Nina. But Nina knew it was more than that. In Elena Ivanovna's eyes, she saw something deeper than just distrust. She saw real hostility. A few days later, something happened that showed Nina her mother-in-law's true nature. Nina came home from work and noticed something strange. All her clothes in the closet had been moved. Her underwear had been looked through, and the pockets of her clothes had clearly been checked. Elena Ivanovna, were you looking for something in my things? She asked carefully. I was just cleaning, her mother-in-law replied, sounding calm. You don't fold your clothes properly. But those are my personal things, Nina said quietly. There's no such thing as personal things in this house, Elena said firmly. Everything here is shared. Her tone left no room for argument. At that moment, Nina realized she was living in a house where her privacy meant nothing. Every move she made would be watched, judged, and criticized. That night, she lay next to her husband, unable to sleep. Her mind kept spinning. Is this what married life is going to be? Will I ever feel at home here? Or will I always feel like a stranger in this house? Outside the window, the autumn rain beat against the glass, tapping a steady, nervous rhythm. Nina closed her eyes and tried to imagine a peaceful future, one where Elena Ivanovna accepted her, where they became a real family. But deep down, she knew hard times were coming. This wasn't just living together, it was a fight for her place in the family, and she didn't even know how to fight it. It was the 3rd week of October. Rain tapped against the windows as Nina woke up with a familiar tight feeling in her stomach. After 2 weeks of living together, she still hadn't found a way to connect with Elena Ivanovna. Each day brought new little arguments. Andre had already left for work, leaving Nina alone with his mother. She walked quietly to the kitchen, hoping to make herself some coffee without being noticed. But Elena Ivanovna was already there, sitting at the table with a cup of tea and a newspaper. "Good morning," Nina said softly. "Morning," her mother-in-law replied coldly, not looking up. Nina poured herself coffee and sat down across from her. The silence felt heavy. She tried to break it. "The weather's kind of gloomy today," she said. "You can really feel that it's autumn." "Yes," Elena said shortly, then looked up. "By the way, Nina, I need to talk to you." Her voice had a sharpness that made Nina sit up straighter. "Of course. What is it?" "It's about money. Yesterday, 2,000 rubles went missing from my wallet." Nina froze. She nearly choked on her coffee. "What? How did they go missing?" "What do you think?" Elena Ivanovna finally looked directly at her, eyes hard. "The money was in my wallet. Today it's gone." "Maybe you spent it and forgot? Or moved it somewhere else?" Nina asked, trying to stay calm. "I'm not some forgetful old lady," Elena snapped. "I have a very good memory. The wallet was in my bag, and your bag, by the way, was sitting right next to it." Nina's face turned red with anger and shame. "Are you saying I took it?" "I'm not saying anything. I'm just telling you the facts," her mother-in-law replied in a cold voice, but her eyes were full of quiet accusation. Nina realized this wasn't just some random conversation. Her mother-in-law had been planning it. "Elena Ivanovna," Nina said firmly, "I have never taken anyone's money. Never." Of course, her mother-in-law replied with a fake smile. "Then tell me, where did you get all those expensive things? You can't buy them on a teacher's salary." "I already explained," Nina said, trying to stay calm. "Some of them were gifts from my parents. Others I bought on sale." Elena Ivanovna said quietly. "Now it all makes sense." Nina stood up suddenly, her hands shaking with anger and humiliation. "I won't let you insult me like this. If you think I took something, search my bag." "Good idea," her mother-in-law replied coolly. She got up and walked to the hallway where Nina's bag was hanging. Nina followed, shocked that this was actually happening. Was she really going to go through my things? Nina thought. Elena Ivanovna took Nina's bag and started going through it, slowly and carefully. She pulled out Nina's wallet, her makeup bag, her notebook, then stopped. "What's this?" she said. She was holding 2 1,000 ruble bills. They were in an inside pocket. "Where did that come from?" Nina whispered, staring at the money like it was a trap. "Yes. Where did it come from?" Elena Ivanovna said with triumph in her voice. "My money in your bag. What a surprise." "I didn't take it," Nina said. "I swear. I have no idea how it got there." "Right," her mother-in-law said sarcastically. "What? The money flew in there on its own?" She stood there gripping the bills tightly, looking at Nina like she had won some battle. Nina felt dizzy. The floor beneath her seemed to shift. This is a nightmare, she thought. Someone had put that money in her bag on purpose. But who?
And why?
Just then, the front door opened. Andre walked in, soaking wet from the rain. "Hey, I forgot my documents," he said, then stopped when he saw their faces. "What's going on?" "Ask your wife," Elena Ivanovna said coldly. "She can explain it better." Andre looked at Nina. "Your mother is accusing me of stealing," Nina said, her voice shaking. "She says I took money from her wallet." "I'm not accusing," Elena Ivanovna interrupted. "I'm proving it. My money was in her bag. That's a fact." Andre looked from his mother to his wife, completely confused. "Mom, are you serious?" he asked. "You really think Nina would steal your money?" "Andre, I didn't do it," Nina said, grabbing his hand. "Please believe me." Andre said nothing. He looked torn. His eyes were full of doubt, and it hit Nina like a punch in the chest. "Maybe it's just a misunderstanding," he said quietly. "Misunderstanding?" Elena Ivanovna snapped. "The money was in my wallet. Now it's in hers. What's so hard to understand? Someone planted it there." Nina cried. "I'm not stupid enough to steal and then leave the money in my own bag. Where else would you hide it?" Elena Ivanovna asked, her voice full of sarcasm. You thought no one would check. Andre stayed silent. Nina could see the war inside him, between his wife, whom he loved, and his mother, who had raised him and never lied to him. Andre, say something, Nina said quietly. I don't know what to think, he whispered. Maybe we should talk this through calmly? There's nothing to talk about, Elena Ivanovna said smugly. It's all clear. Your wife is a thief. It's all clear, Elena Ivanovna said. Your wife is a thief. That's enough, Nina shouted. I won't let anyone call me that. What else do you call someone who steals money? Her mother-in-law asked calmly. Nina turned around and ran into the bedroom. She slammed the door and threw herself onto the bed, bursting into tears. This was worse than a nightmare. She was being accused of stealing. Her husband didn't believe her, and someone seemed to be working step by step to destroy her life. She could hear quiet voices through the door. Andre and his mother were talking, but she couldn't understand what they were saying, just that the conversation was serious. About half an hour later, Andre walked into the room. His face looked tired and confused. Nina, I have to go to work, he said. We'll talk tonight, okay? You don't believe me, Nina said softly, without lifting her head. I just don't understand what's happening. Mom says one thing, you say another. Your mom is lying, Nina said. Andre sighed. Why would she lie? What's the point? Nina looked up at him, her eyes red from crying. Because she wants me out of this house. Can't you see that? Don't be silly, Andre said. Mom's a good person. She's just worried about me. Worried? Nina said bitterly. She's hated me since the day I got here. Andre didn't reply. He kissed her on the forehead and left for work. Nina was left alone, with her thoughts, her fears, and her growing doubts. The school day felt endless. Nina worked like a robot, her mind stuck on what had happened that morning. Even the children noticed and behaved more quietly than usual. During the long break, Tamara Petrovna came up to her. Nina, you look like a ghost. What happened? My mother-in-law accused me of stealing, Nina whispered. What? Are you serious? I wish I wasn't. She found her missing money in my bag and said I took it. Tamara shook her head in disbelief. Listen, maybe she put it there herself? But why? To frame you, Tamara said. I've seen mothers-in-law do this. Some of them will do anything to push their daughter-in-law out of the house. Nina had thought of that too, but hearing someone else say it made it feel even scarier. Could Elena Ivanovna really be that cruel? That night, the mood in the house was heavy. Elena Ivanovna walked around acting like a poor, innocent victim. Andre said nothing. Nina felt like a criminal. At dinner, her mother-in-law suddenly spoke up. You know, Andre, I talked to Valia today. Told her about our little family drama. Nina flinched. Valentina was a close friend of Elena's and a big gossip. You told her? Andre asked, surprised. Why not? People should know what kind of person my son married, especially now that I've lost another 2 bills. What? Again? Nina asked, shocked. Yes, Elena said. Can you believe it? So, I told Valentina. She needs to know the truth. Mom, that's private, Andre said. This is our family issue. Oh, really? So when your wife starts stealing from neighbors, will that be a private matter too? Nina stood up. I'm not a thief. How many times do I have to say it? Then explain how my money ended up in your bag, Elena said calmly. And where are the 2 new missing bills? Who took those? Someone planted them. Nina cried. I would never steal. And if I had, would I be stupid enough to keep the money in my own purse? Where else would you put it? Elena said with a sarcastic smirk. You probably thought no one would check. Enough, Andre said. Let's just look for the money. Maybe Mom misplaced it. What? Do you think I'm some senile old woman? Elena snapped. No, Mom. I just want to get to the bottom of this. They searched the whole apartment, closets, drawers, pockets, but found nothing. No missing money. Elena crossed her arms. Well, are you convinced now? Your wife is a thief. Nina saw doubt growing in Andre's eyes, and it crushed her. Fine, she said quietly. Tomorrow, I'm going to the police. I'll report this as slander. Elena turned pale. Slander?
What are you talking about?
The evidence is right in front of you. We'll let the experts decide, Nina said. They'll check fingerprints on the bills, look at the building's security footage. Elena didn't expect that. For the first time, she looked nervous. She glanced at her son. Andre, are you really going to let her threaten me like this? Andre said nothing. He was clearly thinking hard about what Nina had just said. If Nina was ready to go to the police, it meant she was sure she was innocent. Suddenly, the phone rang. Elena Ivanovna picked it up. Hello? Yes, it's me.
What?
You found it where? She listened for a moment. Her expression changed from proud and smug to confused. I see, yes, thank you. I'll come by tomorrow. She hung up the phone without looking at anyone. Who was that? Andre asked. It was Valia. She says she found the missing money at her place, Elena said. Looks like I lent it to her yesterday and forgot. The room went completely silent. Nina felt a mix of relief and anger boiling inside her. You forgot? Andre asked slowly. Yes, I forgot, his mother snapped. I'm getting old. Memory isn't what it used to be. So, Nina didn't take it, Andre said. And maybe you also misplaced the first 2,000 rubles like you did this time? Well, maybe, Elena Ivanovna muttered. But I'm still not sure about the first time. She stood up and walked toward the door. Sorry, Nina. I was wrong. But her words didn't sound like a real apology, more like she was annoyed her plan didn't work. There was no regret in her voice. After she left, Andre looked at Nina, guilt all over his face. I'm sorry, he said. I should have believed you. Nina stayed quiet. Trust once broken is hard to fix. The worst part wasn't being accused. It was knowing her husband had taken his mother's side. Nina, say something, Andre whispered. What do you want me to say? She replied quietly. Your mother called me a thief, and you believed her. I was confused, he said. I didn't know what to think. Well, now I do, Nina said as she stood up. I know what to think about this marriage. She walked to the bedroom. Andre stayed at the table, realizing he had made a huge mistake. That night, Nina couldn't sleep. She kept replaying everything in her mind. She didn't believe the phone call story for a second. Valia never found the money. Elena Ivanovna had lied. Again, because she knew she'd gone too far and needed to cover her tracks.
But why?
Why would she go to such lengths to ruin their marriage? She could hear voices behind the wall, Andre and his mother talking in low tones. She couldn't make out what they were saying. The next morning, the house felt heavy and tense. Andre left for work, barely saying goodbye. At breakfast, Elena Ivanovna acted like nothing had happened. Nina, go to the store, she said casually. We're out of milk and bread. Go yourself, Nina said coldly. What did you say? I said, go yourself. I'm not your servant. Elena Ivanovna looked shocked. How dare you talk to me like that? And how dare you accuse me of stealing? Nina shot back. You say you apologized, but you lied. You lied about everything, even the call from your friend. Her mother-in-law turned pale. What are you talking about? I know you planted the money in my bag. You wanted to make me look bad in front of Andre. That's ridiculous. Why would I do that? So that he'd stop trusting me. So he'd want a divorce. Elena Ivanovna stood up from the table, her face hard. You're sick, she said coldly. You have a persecution complex, Elena Ivanovna said coldly. Maybe, Nina replied, but I'll be careful now. And if you ever try to hurt me again, you'll regret it. She got up and went to get ready for work. She could feel her mother-in-law's angry, hateful eyes on her back. The war had officially started, and Nina knew this was just the beginning. Elena Ivanovna wasn't done. One failed attempt wouldn't stop her. She would look for new ways to destroy Nina's marriage. But Nina was ready now. She wouldn't let this bitter woman ruin her happiness. Let her try. It was drizzling outside. As Nina walked to work, she thought about how quickly her life had changed in just 2 weeks. She went from being a joyful bride to feeling like she was constantly under attack. But she wasn't going to give up. The fight had only just begun. December came with short, dark days and a cold, biting wind. Nina stood by the school window, looking out at the snowy yard. 2 months had passed since the money incident. But things at home hadn't improved. Elena Ivanovna had changed her strategy. She didn't yell or argue anymore. Instead, she acted behind the scenes. "Nina Mikhailovna, can I talk to you for a moment?" Nina turned. It was the head teacher, Marina Sergeyevna, standing in the doorway with a concerned look. "Of course, come in," Nina said. "I just wanted to talk gently," Marina said, fidgeting with a folder. "Some parents have come with complaints." "Complaints?" Nina asked, surprised. "They say you've been distracted, not paying enough attention to the children. One mother said her daughter, Masha Petrova, told her you yelled at her for no reason." Nina's face flushed. "I would never yell at the children. Masha did break the rules and I corrected her, but I didn't yell." "I believe you," Marina said carefully. "But you see, there have been some rumors going around. People are saying you're having family problems and that it's affecting your work." "Who's saying these things?" Nina asked, her voice tense. "That's not important," the head teacher said. "What matters is that these rumors are spreading." Nina understood right away where it came from. Elena Ivanovna worked in a kindergarten. She had plenty of contacts in the education world. Now she was trying to damage Nina's reputation at work. The next day during math class, Nina could feel how tired and stressed she'd become. It was getting harder to stay patient. Masha Petrova was asking the same question for the 3rd time. "How many times do I have to repeat it?" Nina snapped, her voice sharp. The classroom went silent. The students were used to her being kind and gentle. Masha lowered her head. Her friend Sveta stared at Nina, frightened. "What am I doing?" Nina thought, horrified at herself. One look at the children's faces and she realized her personal problems were starting to affect her job. Elena Ivanovna was winning. "I'm sorry, Masha," she said gently. "I didn't mean to raise my voice. Let's go through the problem together." But the damage was done. The atmosphere of the lesson was already broken. The children looked at Nina with worry in their eyes, and she felt ashamed of herself. After class, she went to talk to the head teacher. "Marina Sergeyevna, I really am having some family problems, but I'm always professional at work." "I believe you," the head teacher sighed. "Just be careful. These days, parents complain about everything." In the teacher's lounge, some of her coworkers were chatting. But when Nina walked in, everyone went quiet. Tamara Petrovna gave her a kind look. "How are you doing, dear?" she asked gently. "I'm fine," Nina replied shortly. But deep down, she knew they all knew what was going on at home. That evening, Nina tried to talk to Andrei. But he seemed distant, like his mind was somewhere else. "Andrei," she said, "I think your mom is saying things about me to people at school." "What makes you think that?" he said without even looking up from the TV. "My head teacher said some parents complained about my work. That can't be a coincidence." "Maybe you have been a little off lately," Andrei said. "You've been stressed." Nina felt anger and sadness rise inside her. "Of course I'm stressed. Your mother is making my life miserable." "Oh, not this again," Andrei sighed. "Nina, not everything is about my mom." He finally looked at her. There was irritation in his eyes. "You know what? I'm tired of all this drama. Figure it out yourself." He stood up and left the room. Nina sat alone in the living room, feeling completely betrayed and heartbroken. The next day, something happened that made everything clear. Nina was shopping for groceries when she heard a familiar voice behind her. "Nina, what a surprise." She turned and saw Larissa Fyodorovna, a teacher from a nearby school. The woman smiled, but it felt fake. "Hello, Larissa Fyodorovna. How are you?" "I'm fine," the woman said. "How's married life?" "It's good, thank you." "Oh, that's good. It's just, I heard your mother-in-law is worried about you." Nina's heart sank.
Who told you that?
"Well, Elena Ivanovna. We met at a teacher training course. She said you and her don't get along. And what exactly did she say? Nina asked coldly. Larissa looked uncomfortable, realizing she might have said too much. Nothing bad, she said quickly. Just that you're young, a bit inexperienced, and that it takes time to adjust to married life. But from the look on Larissa's face, Nina knew Elena Ivanovna had said much more than that, and not in a kind way. I see, Nina said flatly. Well, you can tell Elena Ivanovna not to worry. Everything is fine. A week later, Nina bumped into her elderly neighbor, Anna Vasilievna, on the landing. The old woman gave her a strange look. Do a lot of men visit you, dear? She asked suddenly.
What?
What men? Nina was shocked. Well, I saw a young man ringing your doorbell the other day. Your husband wasn't home.
Oh.
That was probably the plumber, Nina said quickly. He came to fix our leaky faucet. A plumber, the neighbor said with doubt in her voice. Nina stood there frozen. It was clear now, her mother-in-law was spreading nasty rumors even to the neighbors. I see. Nina realized something strange was going on again. Who could have come to the door when Andrei wasn't home? And why was the neighbor asking such a weird question? When she got home, there was another unpleasant surprise. Her favorite blouse, cleaned just yesterday, was now hanging in the closet with yellow stains on it. Elena Ivanovna, what happened to my blouse? Nina asked as she walked into the kitchen. What about it? Her mother-in-law said innocently, stirring a pot of soup. It has stains on it. Yesterday it was clean. Maybe you forgot you wore it, or maybe you ate something messy? I didn't even wear it yesterday. Elena Ivanovna just shrugged like she had no idea. That's strange. I really don't know what to say. Nina tried to wash out the stains, but they didn't come out. It looked like turmeric or mustard, hard to remove. Her favorite blouse was ruined. What a shame, Elena Ivanovna said in a fake sad voice. It was such a pretty blouse. By January, a new wave of petty sabotage started. One day, the lunch Nina had packed was missing from the fridge. Another time, her hairbrush was broken. Then some important documents disappeared. Every time, Elena Ivanovna would act surprised. One morning, Nina was running late for work and couldn't find her keys. Elena Ivanovna, have you seen my keys? No, the older woman replied calmly. Where do you usually put them? In my bag. But they're not there. Maybe you forgot them somewhere yesterday? Nina searched everywhere. Finally, she found her keys in the refrigerator next to the food. How strange, said Elena Ivanovna. Maybe you just put them there without thinking. I would never put my keys in the fridge, Nina said, frustrated. Well then, maybe the house ghosted it. Elena Ivanovna replied with fake innocence. The next week, Nina's favorite mug broke. It was a gift from her mom. Oh, sorry, Elena Ivanovna said flatly. I must have hit it with my elbow while washing the dishes. But Nina noticed the mug was in the trash can, broken into neat pieces, like someone had smashed it on purpose. And then more important work papers disappeared. Are you sure you didn't misplace them? Her mother-in-law said, pretending to care. Young women often have poor memory, especially moms. I'm not a mother, Nina snapped. Well, yes, Elena Ivanovna replied with a fake, thoughtful look. I forgot. You don't have kids yet. There was an unspoken insult in those words. Nina knew her mother-in-law was hinting she was somehow a failure as a wife. At the end of January, while they were having dinner, Elena Ivanovna suddenly asked, So, when will there be children? She looked at her son first, then at Nina. Andrei choked on his soup. Nina's cheeks turned red. Mom, it's still a bit early, Andrei said awkwardly. Too early? You're 28, and Nina's 25. Seems like the right time to me. We just want to enjoy life together for a while, Nina said quietly. Enjoy life, Elena Ivanovna repeated with sarcasm. I thought the point of a family was to have children. But what do I know? I'm just an old fool. Nina noticed how tense Andrei looked. The topic of children was sensitive. They had been trying, but so far nothing had worked. And with the way things were at home, even being close as a couple had become almost impossible. Andrei was spending less and less time at home. He stayed late at work, hung out with friends, and looked for any excuse not to come back to the house filled with tension. Nina felt like their marriage was falling apart. One night, he came home past midnight. He smelled like beer. "Where have you been?" Nina asked quietly. "With the guys. At a bar," Andre said vaguely. "It was Sergei's birthday." "You could have at least told me."
Why?
"So I could come home to another argument." "What argument? Are you seriously going to say I'm just complaining about your mom again?" "I'm tired of it," he muttered, then flopped down on the bed without even changing clothes. Nina sat next to him, watching him sleep. Was this what she had imagined married life would be like? In February, something happened that nearly pushed Nina over the edge. She was making dinner for guests, Andre's co-workers. She'd spent all day in the kitchen and even made her special cake. But when dessert was served, the cake was so salty no one could eat it. The guests smiled politely and tried a few bites, but it was clear something had gone wrong. "I'm really sorry," Nina said, embarrassed. "I don't know how that happened." "It's okay," one of Andre's co-workers said kindly. "It happens." But Elena Ivanovna didn't miss the chance to say something. "She's still learning how to cook," she said with a shrug. "She's young, no experience at all." After the guests left, Nina went into the kitchen and found an open packet of salt sitting out. She clearly remembered putting it back in the cupboard after she finished the cream. "You added salt to my cake, didn't you?" Nina asked. "What nonsense!" Elena Ivanovna snapped. "Why would I ruin dessert and embarrass myself in front of guests?" "You're paranoid. Go see a doctor." Nina felt her last bit of patience wearing thin. The constant little insults, the lies, the sabotage, it was destroying her from the inside. In early March, something happened that became the final straw in this part of their story. Nina came home from work, reached into her coat pocket, and found a small folded note. It was in a woman's handwriting. "Dima, I'm waiting for you. You know where. Kisses." Nina stared at it, confused. She didn't know any Dima. Where had the note come from? Just then, a voice came from behind her. "What's that?" She turned. Andre was standing in the doorway, looking serious. "I don't know," Nina said. "I found it in my pocket." "In your pocket?" He took the note and read it aloud. "Dima, I'm waiting for you. You know where. Kisses." He looked at her suspiciously. "And you have no idea what this is?"
No.
"Someone must have put it there. I swear." "Oh, so now someone planted it," he said sarcastically. "Don't you think this is getting a bit ridiculous?" "Andre, I don't know any Dima," Nina insisted. But she saw the same look in his eyes as before, doubt, mistrust. Just like with the money. "Maybe it's a colleague?" he asked, frowning. "I don't have any male colleagues named Dima." "Anyone outside of work?" Nina's hands started shaking. "You don't believe me. Again. What about the money then?" Andre snapped. "And now this? How am I supposed to trust you when I find love notes in your pocket?" "Someone planted it there," Nina said firmly. "Let me guess, your favorite explanation, my mom again?" "Who else?"
Nina shot back.
Andre shook his head like someone who'd had enough. "Nina, honestly, I think something's wrong with you. You blame my mom for everything. Because she is behind everything."
Right.
"And now you're saying she put this love note in your coat?" "Yes." Andre folded the note and put it in his pocket with determination.
Fine.
"I'll call this number. Let's see who this Dima is." "Go ahead," Nina said, trying to sound confident, but inside, she was trembling. What if Elena Ivanovna had really planned this carefully? What if someone was ready to lie on the phone? Andre dialed the number. Nina stood close, trying to hear. "Hello? Is this Dima?" "Okay. Do you know someone named Nina?"
Uh-huh.
"Did you write her a note?" Andre's face slowly changed as he listened. Nina saw confusion, then relief. "I see. Sorry for bothering you," he finally said, then ended the call. He looked at Nina. "Dima says he doesn't know you and never wrote any notes." "Exactly," Nina said, her voice full of relief. "I told you I had nothing to do with it. Then where did this note come from?" "Your mom." Look at the handwriting. It's clearly from a woman. Andre picked up the note again, examined it. It is feminine handwriting, he admitted. But why would Mom write a fake love note? Why go that far? Are you serious? Can't you see she's trying to break us up? Andre didn't answer right away. Nina could see the war going on in his mind, logic versus loyalty to his mother. This just feels too extreme, he said finally. Your mother is an extreme person, Nina said flatly. Right then, Elena Ivanovna walked into the hallway carrying grocery bags. What's going on here? She asked, eyeing their tense faces. We're talking about this note, Andre said, holding it up. Elena Ivanovna took it, studied it with a curious look. Oh, a love note, she said in a fake sweet voice. Where did this come from? It was in Nina's coat pocket. Elena Ivanovna drawled, giving Nina a knowing look. What's that supposed to mean? Nina snapped. Well, the mother-in-law said, raising an eyebrow. A young lady, a love note, it's pretty clear, don't you think? It's not mine. Of course not, Elena Ivanovna said sarcastically. I'm sure it just magically appeared in your pocket. She handed the note back to Andre and walked to the kitchen like nothing happened. Nina stared after her, filled with anger. She knew exactly what her mother-in-law was doing, playing innocent while tearing their marriage apart. Andre, Nina said, her voice soft and hopeless. Your mom is trying to destroy us. Don't you see it? I just see you blaming her for everything, Andre said tiredly. Because she's doing everything. You don't have any proof, he said. And what proof could I even have? Nina whispered to herself. Your mom isn't stupid. She'd never leave evidence. Andre shook his head and walked off to his room. Nina stood in the hallway, feeling completely defeated again. Elena Ivanovna was slowly tearing their marriage apart, and either Andre didn't see it or didn't want to. Either way, Nina felt completely alone, up against a clever and determined enemy. Outside, snow was still falling in March. Nina stared out the window at the gray sky, wondering how long she could keep going. She already felt exhausted. Empty. But it wasn't time to give up. The fight wasn't over yet. April brought warm weather at last, but inside their small apartment, it still felt like winter. Nina woke up with anxiety already twisting in her stomach. Her dreams had been awful for weeks, her mother-in-law yelling at her at work, Andre throwing her out of the house. She heard muffled voices from the kitchen. Elena Ivanovna and Andre were already having breakfast. Nina put on her robe and walked in. Good morning, she said softly. Morning, her mother-in-law replied coldly, not looking up from her newspaper. Andre gave Nina a short nod and kept eating his oatmeal. The silence between them all was heavy and familiar. Nina poured herself some coffee and sat down. Suddenly, Elena Ivanovna put down the newspaper. By the way, Nina, she said like it was casual, I ran into one of your colleagues yesterday. Irina Petrovna, I think her name was? Nina tensed. Yes, that's her. She told me something interesting. Said you've been staying late at school with the young gym teacher. Nina's heart dropped. She had talked to Dmitry Sergeyevich a few times after school, only to help with documents for the sports club. He asked me to help with some paperwork, Nina explained quickly. Oh, paperwork, Elena Ivanovna said with a smug smile. I see. Funny though. Irina said you seemed very close. Andres suddenly looked up from his bowl. What do you mean close? He asked, his voice already suspicious. Nothing special, Nina said quickly. We were just talking. In an empty classroom, Elena Ivanovna added casually.
Alone.
Until quite late. Nina realized with horror this was a setup. Her mother-in-law had planned this. Are you trying to accuse me of something? Nina asked sharply. Me? Of course not. I'm just telling you what your colleagues told me. Andre put down his spoon, his eyes locked on Nina. Nina, is this true? Are you involved with this Dmitry guy? No. Nina was shocked. I was just helping him with documents. That's it. Then why were you alone together in a classroom late at night? And why didn't you mention it before? Because I didn't think it was important. Andre leaned back in his chair. You didn't think it was important? He repeated bitterly. He stood up and grabbed his coat. I'm going to work. Andre, wait. Nina called after him. But he had already slammed the door shut. Nina was left alone at the table, sitting across from Elena Ivanovna, who was smiling with quiet victory. Why are you doing this? Nina asked softly. Doing what? Her mother-in-law replied, playing dumb. Why are you ruining our marriage? I'm not ruining anything, dear. Elena Ivanovna said sweetly. I'm just helping my son see who you really are. I haven't done anything wrong. Of course, Elena Ivanovna said with fake sweetness. You're just a poor little victim, and everyone is mean to you. She stood up and began clearing the dishes, clearly proud of herself. Her movements showed how pleased she was with what she had done. You know what? Nina said, standing up too. One day Andre will finally see who you really are. And who am I? Her mother-in-law asked with a smirk. You're a bitter, jealous woman who can't accept that her son is a grown man now. Elena Ivanovna's face twisted with anger. How dare you, she whispered. I gave everything to that boy. I sacrificed my whole life for his happiness. You sacrificed yourself so you could control him, Nina shouted. And now you're terrified of losing that control. Get out of my house. Elena Ivanovna screamed. Gladly, Nina shot back. But you don't get to decide that, your son does. Nina ran out of the kitchen, slamming the door behind her. Her hands were shaking with anger and frustration. She couldn't live like this anymore. That day at school felt like a blur. Nina taught her classes like a robot, her mind stuck on what was happening at home. Did Andre really believe his mother? Was their whole marriage hanging by a thread? After school, Nina stayed late on purpose. She didn't want to go back to that house full of tension. She sat in an empty classroom, staring out the window at the children playing. She once dreamed of having her own kids and a happy family. Now those dreams felt childish, impossible. Nina Mikhailovna? You're still here, a voice called. She turned and saw Dmitry Sergeyevich, the PE teacher. He looked concerned. Hello, Dmitry Sergeyevich, Nina said quietly. I actually wanted to talk to you too. Today, he began, some older woman came up to me and asked strange questions. She said she was your mother-in-law. Nina's heart sank. What did she ask? She asked if we were dating. If we were close. Nina closed her eyes. The damage was spreading. What did you tell her? I told her the truth. That you've just been helping me with paperwork for the sports club. But she gave me a weird smile and said, I see. Nina covered her face with her hands. She's trying to ruin my marriage, she said quietly. She twists everything. Even something innocent like our work meetings. But why? Dmitry asked, confused. To turn my husband against me, Nina said. To make him think I'm cheating or lying. Dmitry shook his head. Some people. I'm sorry, Nina Mikhailovna. But don't worry. The truth always comes out in the end. Nina wanted to believe that. But deep down, she wasn't sure anymore. Her mother-in-law was too clever, too calculating. She got home late that night, hoping the worst had already passed. But as soon as she stepped inside, she could feel it. Something was wrong. Andre was sitting in the living room with a dark expression on his face. On the table in front of him was an open notebook. Nina froze. What is that? She asked slowly. Your diary, Andre replied coldly. Mom found it in the closet. Nina felt ice spread through her chest. That diary had her deepest thoughts about Andre, about his mother, about everything. She had written down her pain, her frustration, her fears. And now he had read it. And Elena Ivanovna had given it to him. Andre turned the pages of the diary, and with every line, his face grew darker. Nina could see him reading her most personal thoughts, things she had written when she felt hopeless. I can't live with this woman anymore, he read out loud in a hurt voice. She's making our lives miserable. Andre either doesn't see it or doesn't want to. Andre, please stop, Nina asked softly. But he kept reading. Sometimes I catch myself wishing she would just die. How awful it is to think like that. But I can't take it anymore. Andre looked up at her. You wanted my mom to die? He asked quietly. Nina's cheeks turned red from shame. They were just thoughts. Dark thoughts during hard times. But you did think them? He asked again. Yes, I did. What else could I do? Your mother was slowly breaking me down. You went through my things?
No.
I didn't. Your mom found it while cleaning the closet. By accident, Andre said. Of course, Nina replied bitterly. It doesn't matter how it was found. What matters is what you wrote, he said. You said terrible things about me. Andre opened the diary again and read more. Andre is weak. He can't protect his wife from his own mother. Sometimes I think I made a mistake marrying him. Nina closed her eyes, wishing the words would disappear. She had written them during a very bad day. They weren't how she truly felt all the time. I was upset, she tried to explain. It was just emotion. But Andre kept reading, his voice shaking. Elena Ivanovna is a horrible woman. I hate her. I want her out of our lives. Andre, that's just a diary. I write down my pain there to get it out of my system. So that's how you really feel. About my mom. About me. No, Nina said quickly. Yes, I was angry at her, but not at you. Andre slowly closed the diary, his hands trembling. He didn't speak for a while. He was thinking about what he had just read and about everything that had happened. He remembered his mom crying. He remembered her saying Nina had been mean to her. His mom had always been honest with him. She gave up everything for his happiness. Maybe Nina just doesn't know how to get along with people, he thought. After all, his mother was alone, and Nina had done strange things, mysterious notes, secret talks with the gym teacher. You know what, Nina? Andre finally said, his voice full of pain. I think we made a mistake. We're just not right for each other. What are you saying? Nina asked. I mean, maybe we should end this. You want a divorce? The word hit like a slap. Nina stared at him, shocked that he had really said it. Are you serious? Look at us, he said. We argue constantly. You hate my mom. You're seeing other men. I'm not. Nina snapped. That note wasn't mine. Those meetings weren't secret. But you didn't tell me either, Andre said, tired. And it's always my mom's fault, isn't it? Nina could feel it. There was no point in arguing anymore. Elena Ivanovna had won. She had turned her son completely against his wife. Okay, Nina whispered. If that's what you want, I'll leave. I don't want to, but maybe it's better this way for everyone. In the kitchen, the sound of pots clinking could be heard. Elena Ivanovna was pretending not to listen, but Nina was sure she heard every word. When? Nina asked. I don't know. Maybe this weekend. You can find a new place. Fine. Nina turned and walked to the bedroom. Behind her, she could hear her husband's heavy breathing, but he didn't follow. Maybe it was hard for Andre too to make that decision. But he made it. In the bedroom, Nina sat on the bed, trying to process what had just happened. Her marriage was falling apart. Elena Ivanovna had won. 3 years of her life gone. Strangely, Nina didn't cry. She just felt empty. Maybe it was her mind's way of protecting her. She opened a suitcase and began to pack. As she folded her clothes, she realized how few things she actually had. Her mother-in-law had never really let her settle in this house. Now it all made sense. Each item reminded her of painful memories from the family war. A blouse with yellow stains that never came out. Shoes that had been cut. A book with pages torn out. Why did I put up with all this? She whispered to herself. The answer was simple, because she hoped love would fix everything. But love, she realized, is fragile. It can be broken bit by bit, every single day, slowly and quietly. What are you doing? Andre asked, walking into the room. I'm packing, Nina replied. You told me to leave. I didn't mean right now. What's the difference? Today, tomorrow, what does it matter? Andre stayed quiet, staring at her. For a moment, doubt crossed his face, but he didn't stop her. Maybe we should wait talk about this, he said. Why? Nina said flatly. You made your choice. Your mom is happy. What else is left? Don't say it like that. How else should I say it? I'm just telling the truth. Nina zipped her suitcase and looked at him. You know what, Andre? Your mom was right about one thing. We're not right for each other. But not because I'm a bad wife, because you're a bad husband. Andre's face twisted with pain. A good husband protects his wife, even from his own mother. But you didn't. You chose her. I didn't choose, he began. You did, Nina interrupted. You chose her every day. And now you've finally made your choice for good. She picked up the suitcase and headed to the door. Where are you going? Andre asked, confused. To a friend's. I'll stay there tonight. Tomorrow I'll find an apartment. Wait, let's talk. Talk about what? Everything's already been said. Nina walked out into the hallway. Elena Ivanovna stood at the kitchen door, looking pleased. Well, dear, she said with a fake sweet voice. All packed up. Yes, Nina answered. You got what you wanted. What did I want? Her mother-in-law replied, pretending to be innocent. I just wanted my son to be happy.
No.
You wanted to keep him as your little boy forever. Nina stopped at the front door and turned around. You know what, Elena Ivanovna? I don't even hate you. I just feel sorry for you. Her mother-in-law's smile dropped. You feel sorry for me?
Yes.
You're so afraid of being alone. You'd ruin your own son's life just to keep control. That's sad. I care about his happiness.
No.
You care about yourself. And one day, he'll realize that. Elena Ivanovna went pale, but said nothing. Think whatever you want, she said coldly. At least now, our house will be peaceful. Oh, it will be, Nina agreed. But not for long. What do you mean? Andre will meet someone else. And then you'll go through this all over again with her. Elena Ivanovna's face twitched. Andre will never leave me. We'll see. Nina opened the front door and walked out. The door slammed behind her. She stood in the quiet hallway, holding her suitcase. Her life had just split in two. And yet, with the pain came a strange feeling. Relief. The war was over. She lost, but at least now she didn't have to keep fighting just to survive in someone else's home. It was drizzling outside. Nina called a taxi and went to her friend Tamara Petrovna's house. Her friend opened the door, welcomed her with open arms, and didn't ask any questions. Everything's going to be okay, Tamara said, pouring her a cup of tea. You'll see. Everything will work out. Sitting in the taxi, Nina finally felt like she could breathe. For the first time in months, no one was watching her every move, listening in on her conversations, or going through her things. Freedom felt a little bitter, but it was still freedom. She didn't say a word, just stared out the window. The gray evening city passed by outside. Somewhere back in that old apartment, Elena Ivanovna was probably celebrating her victory, and maybe Andre was already starting to regret the decision he made. But it was too late to go back now. The bridge was burned. All Nina could do was move forward, into a new, unknown future. By May, everything was green and sunny. Nina now sat in her bright, cozy office, going through paperwork for Raduga, the private school she had been running for 2 years. On her desk was a photo of her and her new husband, Victor. He was kind and reliable, a man who accepted her completely, scars and all. It had been 3 years since that rainy evening, when she left Andre's apartment with just one suitcase. 3 years that felt like a new beginning. The first few months after the divorce were really tough. She lived in a small rented apartment, felt lonely, and had to start everything from zero. But step by step, life began to get better. She started out working as a regular teacher in a public school, putting all her energy and heart into her students. People quickly noticed her passion and talent. A year later, she was offered a job as head teacher. And 6 months after that, she met an investor who wanted to open a private school. He needed someone with experience, vision, and drive, and Nina was a perfect match. That's how Raduga, which means rainbow, became her project, her dream come true. Every classroom, every program, every teacher, she had a hand in it all. The school grew, won awards, and became a place where students loved to learn. Parents felt confident, and teachers worked with joy. Nina had spent those 3 years working hard on the school, on herself, and on learning to trust people again. Ms. Nina Mikhailovna, can I come in? A voice asked at the door. Of course, Anna, she replied. Anna, the secretary, stepped in. The education department called. They want to schedule a meeting about expanding the school. Wonderful, Nina said, smiling. Book it for Thursday. She looked around her office again, feeling proud. Everything she once dreamed of during the terrible days with Elena Ivanovna was now her reality. Suddenly, the phone rang. It was Victor. Hi, Nina. How are you? Doing great, she said, smiling. And you? All good. I was thinking of visiting my mom at the hospital tonight. Want to come with me? Of course, Nina replied. Is everything okay? Yeah, it's just a routine operation. She asked me to bring you. She really wants to see you. Warmth filled Nina's heart. Victor's mother treated her like a real daughter. No drama, no suspicion, no jealousy. Just honest love and care. I'll pick you up at 6, Victor said. Perfect. Love you. Love you too. Nina hung up and looked again at the photo of her and Victor. How different her life had become. 3 years ago, she had felt like her whole world was crashing down. But now she understood. That world didn't fall apart. It simply cleared the way for something real. That evening, Nina and Victor arrived at City Hospital No. 7. The halls smelled like disinfectant and medicine. She walked beside her husband, thinking how far she had come. Room 12, Victor said, checking the paper in his hand. They started walking upstairs to the second floor, and suddenly Nina stopped in her tracks. Someone was walking down toward them. A figure she knew very well. At first, Nina thought her eyes were playing tricks on her. But no, it really was him.
Andre.
He looked older than 34. His face was tired, with deep lines around his eyes. He wore an old sweater and wrinkled jeans, and his hair was turning gray at the temples. He saw her too. He froze, staring at her, his ex-wife, with wide eyes. Nina, he said quietly. Andre, she nodded, surprised by how calm she felt. Victor, standing beside her, could feel the tension and looked at Nina curiously. Victor, this is Andre, my ex-husband, Nina said calmly. Andre, this is Victor, my husband. The men shook hands, awkwardly. Victor was taller, sharper, more confident. Standing next to him, Andre looked worn out and small. How are you? Andre asked, unsure, eyes still fixed on Nina. I'm fine, she replied. You're okay? He said, stumbling over his words. The silence dragged on for a few seconds. Nina noticed how Andre studied her face, her clothes, the wedding ring on her hand. She saw a flicker of surprise, pain, and maybe regret in his eyes. We're here to visit Victor's mom, Nina finally said, breaking the silence. And you? Your mom? Yeah, Andre said slowly. She's here. She had a stroke. Oh no, when? A month ago. At first, they didn't think she'd make it. Now she's alive, but half paralyzed. She can't really talk. Doctors say recovery will take a long time. Are you taking care of her by yourself?
Yes.
We can't afford a nurse. And honestly, I can't find a proper job. No one wants to hire an alcoholic. And she needs care all the time. Nina listened quietly. She suddenly realized just how much of a trap Elena Ivanovna had created. First, she ruined Andrei's marriage. Then, she made her son depend on her. And now, she was the one who depended on him. That sounds really tough, Nina said softly. It is. But maybe it's fair, Andre replied. I chose her, remember? I chose her over you. I'm sorry, Nina said sincerely. Thank you. Victor stepped back politely, giving them space to talk alone. You're married? Andre asked, nodding at her ring.
Yes.
For 1.5 years now. Are you happy? Nina looked at him carefully. There was no bitterness in his question. Just honest curiosity. Maybe even hope. Yes, she said simply. Very happy. Andre nodded slowly, like he'd just confirmed something for himself. That's good. I'm glad for you. And you, she asked. How's life? Andre gave a sad smile. My life? No real job. Just problems. With my mom. And a lot of loneliness. There was a pause. Honestly, I think I got what I deserved. Nina felt a twinge of sadness. The man in front of her was nothing like the Andre she once loved. Did my mom tell the truth? He asked suddenly.
About what?
That everything between us was over. That you didn't love me anymore. Nina thought for a moment, wanting to answer kindly, but honestly. I did love you, Andre. But love can't survive without respect and support. And I didn't support you, he said quietly. I kept choosing her over you. Nina nodded.
Yes.
Every time, you chose her. Andre looked down. I realized that. Later. When it was already too late. What do you mean? After you left, she changed. It was like she'd gotten what she wanted, and suddenly she didn't need to pretend anymore. Nina's eyes narrowed. How did she change? She started demanding things, crazy things. She didn't want me to leave the house. Didn't want me to see anyone or go anywhere. If I was even an hour late, she made a scene. If I talked to someone on the phone, she questioned me like I was hiding something. And you put up with it? Nina asked. At first, yeah. I thought she was just stressed about the divorce. But then I realized she had always been like that. She just acted nicer when you were around. Nina listened quietly, thinking. Elena Ivanovna had finally gotten what she always wanted, total control over her son. But in the end, dreams don't always turn out the way we imagine. And then I met someone, Andre said. Alya. She was sweet, kind. She worked as a nurse at a clinic. He paused, his voice softer now. She was patient, gentle. I thought my mom would like her. But she didn't. She went crazy. Said Alya had cast a spell on me, that she only wanted the apartment. She made horrible scenes. One day I came home and found Alya crying. Turned out my mom told her terrible things about me, about our family. Like what? Nina asked. She said I was a mama's boy, that I'd never be a real husband, that I had alcohol problems before I actually did, that I was weak, afraid to make decisions. At first, Alya didn't believe her. But then, the same pattern happened. When Mom had a hard episode, I stayed with her instead of Alya. That was the turning point. Mom started treating Alya even worse, this time openly. No more pretending. She said Alya didn't love me, just wanted the apartment, and was trying to take me away from her. Alya lasted 6 months. Then one day she said, choose me or your mother. Nina raised her eyebrows. And what did you do? I chose Alya, Andre said with a small nod. Seriously. I told my mom I was going to marry Alya, and we'd live separately. How did she react? Nina asked. She had a heart attack. Right in front of me. We called an ambulance. Doctors said it was close. She almost didn't make it. I understand, Nina said softly. Alya said she didn't want to be the reason someone's mother died. She packed her things and left. I never saw her again. Andre went quiet, staring at the floor. Nina could feel how hard it was for him to talk about all this. After that, Mom changed. She got bitter. She told me I betrayed her, that I almost killed her for a woman. And now I had to pay for it for the rest of my life. And are you paying? Nina asked. I tried, but I couldn't take it. I started drinking. People at work noticed. I got fired. Then I found another job, same story. Mom kept nagging, I kept drinking. Nina listened to his words, her heart heavy. There was no satisfaction in hearing she'd been right. Only sadness, for the time lost, the damage done. Nina, Andre said quietly, lifting his eyes to hers. Will you forgive me? For what? For everything. For not believing you. For not protecting you. For not choosing you. Nina looked at him, this broken, tired man. She didn't feel anger anymore. Just pity. And a quiet sadness. I forgave you a long time ago, Andre. Even back then, 3 years ago. Really?
Yes.
Anger eats you up inside. I needed to let it go. I needed a hole. healthy soul to build a new life. Just then, Victor walked up. Nina, Mom's asking for us. Should we go in? Of course. She turned to Andre. It's time for me to go. Yeah, of course. I won't keep you. They stood facing each other, two people who used to be married, now heading in different directions. In Andre's eyes, Nina saw pain, regret, and something like quiet gratitude. Nina, can I ask you something? Sure. If back then if I had chosen you, do you think we could have been happy? The question hung in the air. Nina thought for a moment before answering. I don't know, Andre. Maybe. But it doesn't matter anymore. Why not? Because we can't change the past. We can only learn from it. What should I have learned? That you have to fight for the people you love. That you should listen to your heart, not your fear. And that a man needs to act like a man, not like a scared little boy. Andre nodded. Feels like I learned that too late. I'm 34 now. It's never too late, Nina said gently. Not if you really want to change. You think I still have a chance at happiness? Everyone does. The question is, are you ready to take it? Andre looked at her for a long time, like he was trying to memorize her face. Thank you, he said quietly. For everything. For forgiving me. For not turning bitter. And for letting me go. Even if it took time. They shook hands, polite, distant, like old acquaintances. Take care of yourself, Andre. You too. Be happy. Nina walked up the stairs with Victor. At the landing, she turned back. Andre was still standing there, watching her walk away. Tough meeting? Victor asked gently. No, Nina answered, a little surprised at how calm she felt. Actually, I think it was important. Why? Because I finally felt like the past is truly behind me, and that I made the right choice. They entered Victor's mother's hospital room. The older woman was lying in bed, but looked cheerful. Nina, sweetheart, she smiled. I'm so happy you came. How are you feeling? Nina asked, sitting beside her. Much better. They're letting me go home tomorrow. And you? Are you tired from school? No, not at all. I love my work. That's how it should be. Work should make you happy. And my Vitya, he's good to you? Nina looked at her husband and smiled. He's wonderful. Thank God. It means so much to me to know my son is happy. Nina thought about how different these two women were. Both were mothers, both loved their sons. But one wanted her son to be happy, even if it meant being alone, while the other was willing to destroy her son's happiness just to keep control. Mom, Victor said suddenly, remember I told you about Nina's ex-husband? Of course, his mother replied.
Why?
We saw him at the hospital today. And how is he doing? She asked with concern. Not well, Nina answered honestly. His life didn't turn out the way he hoped. That's sad, the older woman said. But sometimes people ruin their own happiness. Yes, Nina agreed. They do. The important thing, Victor's mom added, is that you didn't become bitter. That says a lot about you. Nina smiled. It felt so good to hear kind words from her mother-in-law. This was a completely different kind of relationship, a completely different kind of home. They stayed at the hospital for another half hour, then headed home. On the way, Nina kept thinking about how different mothers can be. Victor's mother was happy just to see her son with the woman he loved. She didn't compete. She didn't try to control him. She didn't act jealous. Nina thought, what's the difference? Both Elena Ivanovna and Victor's mother loved their sons. But one loved with control, while the other loved with freedom. Elena Ivanovna had been afraid of losing power over her son, and in the end, she lost his respect. But Victor's mom, by letting her son go and supporting him, gained his love and the love of his wife. In the car, Victor asked, what did you two talk about?
The past.
Everything that happened between us. Did it hurt?
No.
Just sadness.
For the time we lost.
For the dreams that never came true. Dreams we once shared, like having a family. Victor took her hand. But we still have time, he said. We still have all of that ahead of us. Yes, Nina smiled. We do. Later that night, at home, They sat in the kitchen having tea. Nina thought again about her meeting with Andre. It was strange seeing him like that. Broken, tired, alone. Yes, Elena Ivanovna had won. But at what cost? Her victory was empty. What are you thinking about? Victor asked. Just how important it is to let go of the past. And how important it is to fight for your happiness. Do you regret meeting him today? No, Nina said. Not at all. That meeting gave me closure. It ended the story. What kind of ending? Forgiveness. Understanding. Accepting what happened. And feeling grateful for what I have now. Victor hugged her. I love you because you know how to forgive. And I love you because you know how to protect. They sat quietly in the warm kitchen, arms around each other. Outside, the May night skies sparkled with stars and new beginnings. Somewhere in the hospital lay Elena Ivanovna, paralyzed, living with the consequences of her actions. Somewhere in a dark apartment sat Andre, finally realizing his mistakes, but far too late. But in this house, there was love. There was peace. There was hope. Nina had learned something important. To be happy, you have to choose it, and no one can take that right away from you. Everyone creates their own future. You can hold on to the past, to pain, to control, or you can let go, forgive, and open your heart to something new. Nina chose to move forward, and life gave her back everything she'd hoped for. Love, success, and peace. Life went on. A new, bright, meaningful life. What do you think? Will Andre ever find happiness? Or as long as his mother is alive, will he always be alone? Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and we'll see you next time.